Okay, so the first type of visual representation that we're going to look at is a dot plot or a line plot. A dot plot or a line plot. And all that this dot plot or line plot does is tell you the frequency of a specific choice. So, like if you're comparing how many people choose chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, strawberry ice cream, right? You would make your columns chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and then you just use tally marks or dots. Tally marks or dots, okay? So, when it is used, well, it's used to count the frequency. It's used to count the frequency of a small data set. So, this word here is the frequency. It's used to count the frequency of a small data set. Okay. So we either use dots or tally marks, or you can use little X's. Okay. And you just place those dots on the number line, just like your pictures are above. It's not anything super crazy or hard. Okay. Are you guys good with that? Okay. So our next one that we do is a histogram. So we're going to draw some things on this map or on our little graph. So first of all, this, and I'm trying to write sideways, this is the frequency. So your y-axis represents the frequency, the number of times, right? Frequency, the number of times, that's an E right there. Okay, so that represents your frequency. The range setup is this down here at the bottom. And these little guys right here are called bins. Okay. So a histogram also is used to count the frequency of data, but it's used when you have larger data sets, bigger numbers. And the reason it's used that way is because we kind of create these bins. So instead of giving a tally mark for every time someone chooses the number 1, we give a tally mark for every time someone chooses the numbers 0 through 9, 10 through 19. So your bins actually represent 10 possible choices in there. Okay. So it's still used to count the frequency. It's still used to count the frequency of data that falls within certain ranges. Or what I say, we also call those bins. But it's used with larger data sets. It's used with larger data sets. Okay. So something that you have to remember when you're creating a histogram, the bars, which are actually just rectangles, they touch. There's no space in between them. Okay. So the rectangles have to touch. There's no space in between them. The x-axis consists of the ranges, your bin values, right? And the y-axis is the frequency. The y-axis is the frequency, number of times. I'll put a little note here that says no space between the bars. Maybe that'll help. No space between bars. No space between the bars. So I'm going to go back up to our histogram just so we can look at it. So we understand what we mean by frequency. So how many times was a number 0 through 9 chosen? 4 times, yep. How many times was a number 10 through 19 chosen? How many times was a number 20 through 29 chosen? How about 30 through 39? And 40 plus. We'll say 40 to 49. I don't know. 5. So do you guys understand how to read that? You feel good about those? I'm pretty sure that you guys learned histogram in elementary school. It's just we're going to use dot plots, histograms, and then the next one, box and whiskers, to start representing data. So this last one that we're going to talk about today is a box and whisker plot. Do you guys ever remember seeing something like this? Some of you, yes, some of you know. Okay. So when you think in terms of like a data set, so if I just gave you a set of numbers, this little guy right here, this point, this represents the minimum, which is the what? The minimum means the what? Yeah, it means the smallest point or the smallest number. It's the smallest number. So if you think that little dot on the left is the minimum, what do you think this dot on the, yeah, this is my maximum. And so that just means that it's the largest number, right? Maximum is the largest number. So I have minimum, smallest, maximum, largest. Okay. So this right here is called the median. Do you guys remember mean, median, and mode? Do you remember that? Learning about the mean, the median, and the mode. The median represents the what? Do you guys know? The median represents the very middle. Okay, it's the middle. It is the very middle. And box and whisker plots are unique because, do you guys see if I were to count this, I have 1, 2, 3, I have 4 groupings. Do you guys see that? I have 4 groupings. Okay. So it divides the data into fourths. So what do you think these groupings are called? What's another word for a fourth? How about a quarter, right? Does a quarter, do you guys remember quarters is like a fourth of a dollar? So these are called quartiles. So this is Q1. This Q1, this number right here, means that 25% of the data lies below it. So that's 25% of the data. Right here, the median is also called Q2. So that means that this has 25% of the data. This guy right here, what do you think this one's called? Q3 for the third quartile. So that means that this represents 25% of the data. And that's just how it's set up. Okay. So your box, this is the box. The box holds how much of the data? 50%. And it holds the middle 50%. The upper quartile, that's what this is called. The upper quartile holds the top, how much percentage? I didn't write 25 up here. Remember, these are all broken up into 25% increments, right? So the upper quartile holds the top 25% of the data. And this space right down here where the 25 is also called the lower quartile. The lower quartile. And it carries or contains 25% of the lower data. Okay. So a box plot is really cool because you can identify the median from it. You can identify your maximum and your minimum. You can identify if you have outliers based on looking at your box plot. And then you can calculate what an outlier would be just from your box plot. Okay. So is everyone good with that? Do you want me to leave that there for a second? Okay, I'm going to slide up. So we use a box plot to show the spread of data by dividing it into, what do we call those things that we divide it into? Quartiles. By dividing it into quartiles. Those quartiles represent something called the 5-number summary. The quartiles represent something called the 5-number summary. And you can also calculate your inner quartile range by taking Q3 minus Q1. I'm going to tell you what your 5-number summary is. Your 5-number summary is it's used with box plots. It's your minimum. It's your Q1. It's your median. It's your Q3. And it's your maximum. That's the 5-number summary. That's what it represents. Can I slide down? Are we all good with that? Okay. So the whiskers show the maximum and the minimum of the data set. The box shows the Q1. Q2 is really never called Q2. It's always called, pick up the pencil again. So Q2 is typically called your median. We don't really ever see it written as Q2. It's typically called the median. It's typically called the median. And an important thing, and it's a question I feel like on every homework assignment, remember that the box is 50% of the data. The box is 50% of the data. So when I put this into my journal, I folded it into thirds. Can I grab this? Is that all right? I folded it into thirds like this. I took one side and folded it over. And then I took the other side and folded it over, kind of like a little trifold. And I put glue on the back side right here. So that way when it was in my journal, it's kind of like this, right? And I just fold the flaps over. So I glued this piece on the back side. Or staple, or glue, staple, whatever you need to do. So when I think about my journal right now, in my Unit 8 journal, let's see, I have the directions that I printed off, right? The calculator / Desmos directions. And then I have the journal that we did for regression and residuals. Kimber, did you grab your stuff from when you were absent? Because, yeah, if you guys were not here on Friday, you need to grab your stuff. It's paper clipped together. Yeah, I think you were. Kimber, Violet did your journal for you. Like, it's almost 100% complete. I put it in there, but do you see your stuff paper clipped together, period 1? You got it? So this is your journal. So I've got it posted, filled out. I think we've got almost all of it. Okay, check that. You did an awesome job on that. Okay. So in your journal right now, you have your directions, your calculator directions, right? And then your residual regression. And now you're adding your graphical representation of data. And we're going to do one more. We're going to, yep. The blue one's a journal. Let's fill it out first. Don't stick it in there because it's going to be too challenging to fill out if you glue it down. Okay, so the next one that we're going to is our central measures of central tendencies. That's what this is called. This measures of central tendencies. Everybody good with this? Can I go into the next one?